Look, I have been in the Galactic Enforcement Corps for 12 cycles now. 12 whole cycles. And in all that time, across 47 different stations, 3 war zones, and that one unfortunate incident on Praxis 9 that we do not talk about, I have learned exactly one universal truth. Never, and I mean never, touch a human. My name is Krill. Junior Tactical Officer Krill, if we are being formal about it, which we are not because formal got thrown out the airlock about 3 minutes ago, along with common sense and Commander Vaxis's head. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. It started like any other rotation on Station Carenza. You know the type. Boring. Tedious. The kind of shift where you count the chronometers until you can get back to your quarters and pretend the universe makes sense. I was manning the security checkpoint in Docking Bay 7, running standard scans on incoming vessels, trying not to fall asleep standing up. That is when the human ship arrived. Now, here is the thing about humans. They are new to the Galactic Council. Real new, like only been members for maybe 8 cycles new. And they are weird? No, scratch that. Oh, they are terrifying. But most species have not figured that out yet, because humans do not look terrifying. They look soft, squishy. They have got these round faces and these little teeth, and they smile all the time like everything is just wonderful. It is a trap. The smile is always a trap. The ship that docked was called the Wandering Star, which is such a human name I cannot even begin to explain it. They name things like poets having a seizure. Anyway, 3 humans disembarked. 2 males, 1 female. The female was tall, had dark skin, and hair that defied gravity in ways that made my head hurt. Her name was Captain Kira Ozai. The 2 males were her crew. Marcus, the pilot, shorter guy, always grinning. And then there was the 3rd one. Private First Class Tommy Reeves. Tommy looked like somebody had taken the concept of average and made it into a person. Brown hair. Average height for a human, which is tall for most species, but whatever. Blue eyes that seemed friendly enough. He was wearing a casual station jumpsuit, nothing fancy. Smiled when I scanned his credentials. Said thank you when I cleared him through. Polite. Friendly. Completely, utterly, stupidly dangerous. But like I said, most species have not figured that out yet. Commander Vaxis certainly had not figured it out. Vaxis was Kelthrian. You know the type. Tall, elegant, 4 arms, skin that shimmered blue and silver, thought he was the universe's gift to military command. He had been assigned to Station Carenza about 2 cycles ago and had been making everyone's life miserable ever since. Real piece of work. That one. The kind of officer who thought rank meant he could treat everyone below him like they were malfunctioning service drones. I watched the humans pass through security, logged their arrival, and figured that was that. Another boring day on a boring station. Maybe I would grab some ration packs later. Maybe watch a holo-vid. Exciting stuff. 3 hours later, all hell broke loose in the station commons. The commons is this big open area in the center of Carenza. Multiple levels, lots of species mixing around, vendors selling overpriced garbage. The usual. I was doing a routine patrol when I heard the commotion. Raised voices. The kind that make your danger instincts start screaming. I pushed through the crowd and found Commander Vaxis in the middle of the plaza, all 4 arms gesticulating wildly, yet his crest flared up in that way Kelthrians do when they are angry. And standing in front of him, looking confused and patient, was Tommy Reeves. Oh no. Captain Ozai was there too, along with Marcus. They both had that look. You know the one. That human look that says we are being calm and reasonable, but inside we are calculating exactly how to dismantle you at the molecular level. Turns out, there had been a mix-up with the docking fees. Some administrative nonsense about tariffs and cargo manifests. The kind of thing that gets sorted out with a few forms and maybe a mild headache. Nothing major. Commander Vaxis was treating it like a declaration of war. Your species thinks you can just ignore Galactic Council regulations? Vaxis was practically screeching. His translator was working overtime. You Deathworlders come into civilized space and act like rules do not apply to you? Deathworlder. That is what most of the galaxy calls humans. See, Earth is a Class 12 death world. Class 12. Do you know how rare that is? Most sentient species evolve on Class 3 or 4 worlds. Nice places. Comfortable gravity, reasonable weather, predators that do not actively hunt you for sport. Earth is a nightmare planet where everything is trying to kill you and the weather has moods and the gravity is so high that humans are basically walking around in a permanent training weight situation. But Vaxis did not care about that. He just kept yelling. Tommy, bless his oblivious human heart, was trying to de-escalate. Sir, I think there has been a misunderstanding. Captain Osei already submitted the corrected manifest codes. If you check your datapad, you will see everything is in order. I do not take orders from you, human. Vaxis snapped. Captain Osei stepped forward. She had that smile. The dangerous one. Commander, nobody is giving orders. We are simply trying to resolve a clerical error. Perhaps we could discuss this in a more private setting. I do not need a private setting to deal with your incompetence. Marcus muttered something under his breath. It sounded like here we go. His hand moved subtly to rest on Tommy's shoulder. A warning gesture, maybe, or support. With humans, it was hard to tell. The crowd was getting bigger now. Word spreads fast on a station. Whenever there is drama, everyone wants to watch. I counted at least 50 beings pressed around the plaza, watching the show. Asgari merchants, Tholian diplomats. A group of Zephix traders who were filming the whole thing on their optical implants. This was bad. This was really bad. Vaxis turned his attention fully to Tommy. You, private. Your kind should learn respect. You are in civilized space now, not on your primitive mudball planet. Tommy's smile tightened. Just barely. But I noticed it. Sir, I apologize if we have caused offense. That was not our intention. Intention? Vaxis laughed. It was not a nice laugh. Your species has been nothing but trouble since joining the Council. Causing incidents, breaking protocols, acting like you own the galaxy. Commander. Captain Osei's voice had gone very quiet, very controlled. I think we should step back and breathe for a moment. I do not need to breathe, Captain. What I need is for your subordinate to show proper deference. Tommy has been nothing but respectful, Osei said. Her jaw was tight now. Perhaps if you reviewed the documentation we submitted, you would see that this entire situation is a computer error, not a crew error. Vaxis was not listening. He was locked onto Tommy now like a targeting system. Get on your knees, human. The entire commons went silent. You could have heard a microbe sneeze. Excuse me? Tommy said. His voice was still polite, still calm, but something had shifted in his eyes. You heard me. Kneel. Show proper respect to a superior officer. Commander Vaxis, Captain Osei said, and her voice had dropped into a register I had never heard before. Private Reeves is not under your command. He is a member of the Terran Defense Initiative, operating under Council Charter 7-4. He does not answer to you. All personnel on this station answer to me. No, Marcus said quietly. They really do not. I should have stepped in. I know that. I was security. It was literally my job. But I was frozen, watching this play out like some kind of horrible slow-motion disaster. It's like watching a ship drift into a star and being unable to do anything about it. Vaxis took a step closer to Tommy. I said, kneel, Deathworlder. Tommy did not move. He just stood there, hands at his sides, that polite expression still on his face. Sir, I cannot do that. Cannot? Or will not? Both. Axis's crest flared so bright it hurt to look at. You dare defy me? I am not defying you, Commander. I am simply declining an unlawful order. The crowd was pressed in tighter now, if beings from a dozen species, all watching, all waiting. The tension was thick enough to chew. Vaxis raised one of his forearms. I saw it happening. Saw it like it was moving through molasses. Saw Captain Osei start to move. Saw Marcus take a step forward. Saw Tommy's eyes widen just slightly. Commander Vaxis, in front of 50 witnesses, in the middle of a crowded station commons, slapped Tommy Reeves across the face. The sound echoed. For exactly 1 second, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The entire universe seemed to pause and go, did that just happen? Tommy's head had snapped to the side from the impact. Slowly, very slowly, he turned back to face Vaxis. There was a red mark on his cheek. His blue eyes were very wide, very bright. "Oh, you stupid, stupid fool," Captain Osei whispered. And that is when I learned something new about humans. They have this thing called adrenaline. It is a chemical their bodies produce when threatened. It makes them faster, stronger, turns off their pain receptors and ramps up their reaction time to levels that should not be physically possible for a species their size. Most species have something similar. A mild fight or flight response helps you run away from predators. Humans do not run away from predators. Humans are the predators. Tommy moved. I have seen combat before. I have seen trained soldiers in action. I have seen Kelthrian masters perform their elegant four-armed martial forms. I have seen Veskari enforcers who trained their whole lives for violence. I have never seen anything move like Tommy Reeves moved in that moment. 1 second he was standing there looking shocked. The next second his hand had clamped around Vaxis's wrist. The third second there was a wet cracking sound that made my stomach turn. The fourth second Vaxis was screaming. The fifth second, Tommy had twisted and pulled and moved in ways that should not have been possible, and Commander Vaxis's head was no longer attached to Commander Vaxis's body. 5 seconds. That is how long it took. The head hit the floor with a dull thump and rolled 3 meters before stopping against a waste receptacle. The body stood there for another 2 seconds, all 4 arms twitching, before it collapsed in a heap. Tommy stood over it, breathing hard, still holding the severed arm. Blue blood splattered across his jumpsuit. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I have ever heard. 50 beings, 50 witnesses, all of us frozen in shock and horror and disbelief. Captain Osei was the first to move. She walked over to Tommy, gently took the arm from his hand, and tossed it aside. "Tommy, look at me. Look at me right now." Tommy blinked, focused on her. He hit me. I know he did. And what you did was self-defense. Do you understand? Self-defense. I did not mean to. Tommy looked down at the body, at the head, at his hands. Oh God, I did not mean to. I know, but you need to breathe now. You need to stay calm. Marcus had moved to Tommy's other side. Deep breaths, buddy. In through the nose, out through the mouth. You are okay. You are okay. Okay. I finally found my voice. I need to call station security. I gestured at the body, at the mess. Captain Osei turned to me. Her eyes were hard. That man assaulted a member of my crew in front of 50 witnesses. What happened next was self-defense. He ripped his head off. Someone in the crowd shouted. After being physically assaulted by a superior officer who had no authority to give him orders, let alone strike him, Osei snapped back. Terran defense protocols are very clear on this. Any human experiencing a physical assault has the right to defend themselves with appropriate force. Appropriate, I squeaked. He decapitated him. Commander Vaxis was Kelthrian, 4 arms, significantly stronger than the average human. Tommy responded to a lethal threat with lethal force. That is the law. The crowd was murmuring now. Debates breaking out in a dozen languages. Some beings were backing away. Others were pressing closer, trying to get a better look at the carnage. I tapped my comm unit with shaking hands. This is Junior Tactical Officer Krill. We have a code black in the station commons. I repeat, code black. Fatality. Send medical. Send command. Send everyone. The response was immediate. Copy that, Krill. Team en route. What is the situation? Commander Vaxis is dead. What? How? I looked at Tommy, who was still breathing hard, still staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. A human killed him, I said. There was a long pause on the other end of the comm. We are coming now. Secure the area. Do not let anyone leave. The next 20 minutes were chaos. Security teams flooded the commons. Medical arrived, took one look at Vaxis's body and declared him beyond saving, which was pretty obvious considering his head was 3 meters away from his body. The crowd was pushed back, statements were taken, the whole area was locked down. Tommy was placed in restraints, not because he resisted. He did not. He just stood there, numb, while they secured his wrists and read him his rights under council law. Captain Jose was arguing with the security chief. Marcus was trying to explain what had happened to anyone who would listen. The Zephyx traders were still filming everything. I was sitting on a bench, trying to process what I had just witnessed. Commander Vaxis was dead. Actually dead. One of the highest-ranking officers on Station Carenza. Dead. Ned. Killed by a human in 5 seconds. The head of station security, a grizzled Vescari named Kront, walked over to me. Tell me exactly what you saw. So I did. Every detail. The argument. The slap. The 5 seconds that followed. Kront listened, his face unreadable. When I finished, he sighed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. This is going to be a nightmare. Is the human going to be charged? It depends on a lot of things. Whether the council views this as self-defense. Whether the Kelthrian government demands justice. Whether anyone can figure out how the hell a human killed a Kelthrian commander in hand-to-hand combat in under 10 seconds. 5 seconds, I corrected. Kront stared at me. 5? I counted. He sighed again, longer this time. Humans. Why did it have to be humans? Over the next few hours, I gave my statement at least 4 more times. To different officials. Different departments. Everyone wanted to know exactly what happened. And every time I told the story, I watched their faces go through the same progression. Disbelief, shock, horror, fear. Because that is what this was really about. Fear. The galaxy had thought humans were manageable. Strange, sure. Loud, definitely. But manageable. Watching Tommy Reeves rip Commander Vaxis's head off in 5 seconds had shattered that illusion like glass. By the time they finally let me go back to my quarters, it was late into the station night cycle. I collapsed on my bunk, exhausted, and tried to sleep. I could not. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again. The slap. The movement. The blood. 5 seconds. My comm unit chirped. Incoming message. I almost ignored it, but the sender ID made me sit up. It was from Marcus, the human pilot. The message was short. Thank you for telling the truth about what happened. Tommy is not a monster. Vaxis should not have touched him. We appreciate your honesty. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. Is Tommy okay? The response came quickly. No. But he will be. Humans are resilient like that. I wanted to ask more. Wanted to understand how a species could be so friendly and so lethal at the same time. How they could smile and laugh, and then kill in the span of a heartbeat. But I did not. Instead, I just sent back. I hope he gets cleared. He will. The law is on his side, even if the galaxy is not ready to accept it. I lay back down, staring at the ceiling of my quarters. The galaxy was not ready. That much was clear. Because here is the thing nobody wanted to admit. Humans had been holding back, being polite, playing nice. trying to fit into galactic society. But when pushed, when threatened, when struck, they were exactly what their planet made them. Survivors, fighters, Deathworlders. And Commander Vaxis had just taught the entire galaxy that lesson the hardest way possible. I finally fell asleep sometime around the early morning cycle. When I woke up, the galaxy had changed. News of the incident had spread. Faster-than-light communications meant that every station, every planet, every council member had heard about what happened on Carenza. A human had killed a Kelthrian commander in 5 seconds. In public. In self-defense. Some species were calling for Tommy's execution. Others were calling for investigations into why a commander had assaulted a junior officer. The humans were maintaining that it was self-defense, and anyone who said otherwise could take it up with the Terran Defense Initiative legal team. It was a mess. But through it all, one thing was clear. The galaxy had learned a very important lesson. Never, ever, under any circumstances, touch a human. I reported for duty that morning, still shaken, still processing. The station felt different. Quieter. People were walking carefully around the few humans on board, giving them space. Nervous glances. I made my way to the security office to file my final report and found Krant waiting for me. Krill. Good, I need you on special assignment. What kind of assignment? He slid a datapad across the desk. You are being transferred. Temporarily. To observe the tribunal. The tribunal? The council is convening in an emergency session to determine the legality of what happened. They want first-hand witnesses present. You drew the short straw. I stared at the datapad. At the transfer orders. At the destination. Council Central Station. The heart of galactic government. Where they were going to decide the fate of Private Tommy Reeves. And maybe, just maybe, the fate of human integration into the wider galaxy. When do I leave? I asked. 2 hours. Pack light. This is going to take a while. I left the office, my head spinning. 2 days ago, I was a bored junior officer counting chronometers until my shift ended. Now I was about to witness what might be the most important trial in galactic history. All because Commander Vaxis had made one terrible, fatal decision. He had slapped a Deathworlder. And the galaxy would never be the same. Council Central Station is enormous, like so big that calling it a station feels insulting. It is more like a small moon that someone hollowed out and filled with bureaucrats. 17 levels, thousands of chambers, representatives from every single council species, all crammed together, arguing about trade routes and mineral rights, and whose turn it is to host the annual Unity Festival. I hated it immediately. The transport shuttle dropped me off at Docking Bay 12, and I was immediately swept into a processing line with about 200 other beings. Credentials check, security scan, biometric registration, the whole tedious nightmare. By the time I finally got through, I had been standing in line for 3 hours and was seriously reconsidering every life choice that had led me to this moment. A Tholian clerk handed me a datapad with my assigned quarters and tribunal schedule. Witness Krill, you are expected in Chamber 47 tomorrow at the 9th hour. Do not be late. The council does not appreciate tardiness. Great. Wonderful. Cannot wait, I muttered. The quarters they assigned me were tiny. A sleeping pod barely big enough to turn around in, a hygiene station that had seen better days, and a wall-mounted screen that only got 3 channels. I tossed my gear onto the sleeping platform and collapsed. My comm unit buzzed. Message from Krant. Settling in? 1. If by settling in you mean contemplating the void, then yes. This place is horrible. It gets worse. The tribunal is being broadcast galaxy-wide. Every species is watching. The pressure is intense. Fantastic. I love pressure. It is my favorite thing. Stay sharp, Krill. The humans are going to need every honest witness they can get. The Kelthrian delegation is out for blood. I signed off and stared at the ceiling of my pod. Tomorrow I would be testifying in front of the entire Galactic Council about watching a human decapitate a commander in 5 seconds. This was fine. Everything was fine. I did not sleep well that night. The next morning I made my way to Chamber 47. The halls were packed with beings rushing in every direction. Diplomats, lawyers, journalists. Everyone wanted a piece of this trial. I had to show my credentials 4 times just to get into the right section. The chamber itself was massive, circular, with tiered seating rising up on all sides. In the center was a platform where the accused would stand. Above that, suspended in the air by some kind of gravity tech, was the council bench, 12 seats for the 12 presiding judges, 1 from each major species block. The gallery was already full. I spotted my assigned seat in the witness section and squeezed past a Vescari journalist who was recording everything on about 6 different devices. "First time at a tribunal?" she asked. "That obvious? You look terrified." "I am terrified." She laughed. "It sounded like gravel in a blender. Do not worry. Most of it is just talking. Lots and lots of talking." She was not wrong. The tribunal started with opening statements. The prosecutor, a Kelthrian named High Advocate Selen, stood and addressed the council with all 4 arms spread wide. She was elegant, poised, and absolutely furious. "Esteemed council members, we are here today because a human, Private Tommy Reeves, brutally murdered Commander Vaxis in front of 50 witnesses. This was not self-defense. This was not an accident. This was a calculated, violent act that demonstrates the fundamental incompatibility of humans with civilized galactic society." The gallery murmured, some species nodding along, others looking skeptical. The defense attorney stood next, a human woman named Advocate General Mira Okafor. She was older, gray hair pulled back, wearing a formal suit that looked uncomfortable, but her eyes were sharp, predator sharp. "Esteemed counsel, we are here today because Commander Vaxis assaulted a junior officer without provocation, without authority, and in violation of at least 7 council regulations. What happened next was tragic, but it was legal. Private Reeves acted in self-defense against a superior aggressor, as is his right under Council Charter 7-4. The prosecution wants to make this about humans. It is not. It is about the law." Oh, this was going to be good. The first witnesses were called. Station security footage, medical reports, testimony from beings who had been in the Commons that day. Each side tried to spin the narrative their way. The prosecution emphasized the brutality, how fast it happened, how violent, how Tommy had, in their words, savaged Commander Vaxis like a wild animal. The defense emphasized the assault, how Vaxis had no authority, how he had struck first, how Tommy had responded to a physical threat the only way his biology allowed. Then they called me. I walked down to the central platform, feeling about 1,000 eyes on me. The lead judge, a Praxian named Magistrate Kovar, gestured for me to approach. "State your name and position for the record." "Junior Tactical Officer Krill, Station Karenza Security Division." "You were present during the incident in question?" "Yes, Magistrate." "Describe what you witnessed." So I did. Again. For what felt like the 100th time, the argument, the escalation, the slap, the 5 seconds. High Advocate Selen stood when I finished. "Officer Krill, you say Commander Vaxis slapped the human. Is it possible he was simply trying to get the private's attention? That it was not intended as an assault?" I blinked. "He hit him across the face hard enough to leave a mark. That seems pretty assault-like to me. But Kelthrians have different social customs. Perhaps what you interpreted as violence was simply a cultural misunderstanding. With respect, Advocate, I have worked with Kelthrians for 12 cycles. I know the difference between a cultural gesture and a slap. That was a slap." She pursed her lips. "And after this alleged slap, Private Reeves immediately killed Commander Vaxis. No warning, no hesitation. Does that seem like self-defense to you, or does it seem like retaliation? It seemed like a human responding to being hit. Responding by ripping someone's head off. Responding to a physical assault by a superior officer who outweighed him and had 4 arms versus 2. Yeah, seems proportional to me. The gallery erupted in murmurs. Magistrate Kovar banged his gavel. Order. Advocate Selen, do you have further questions for this witness? No, Magistrate. Advocate General Okafor stood. Officer Krill, in your professional opinion as a security officer, did Private Reeves have reason to believe he was in danger? Absolutely. Commander Vaxis was aggressive, angry, and had just physically assaulted him. Any reasonable being would have felt threatened. And the speed of Private Reeves's response. Does that indicate premeditation or instinct? Instinct. Definitely instinct. Humans have this adrenaline response thing. Makes them react faster when threatened. What Tommy did, he did not think about it. He just reacted. Thank you, Officer Krill. I returned to my seat, hands shaking. The Veskari journalist leaned over. Good testimony. Very honest. Thanks. I think I might throw up. First tribunal nerves. It passes. The tribunal continued for 3 more days. Witness after witness. Expert testimony on human biology, on Kelthrian strength, on self-defense laws across different species. Medical examiners explaining exactly how Commander Vaxis had died. Psychologists discussing whether Tommy had experienced a mental break or a biological response. It was exhausting. On the 4th day, they brought Tommy in. He looked terrible. Thinner, dark circles under his eyes. His hands were bound with energy restraints, and 2 guards flanked him as he was led to the platform. But he stood straight, kept his head up. Captain Jose was in the gallery. So was Marcus. Both of them watching with expressions that could cut steel. Magistrate Kovar addressed Tommy directly. Private Reeves, you stand accused of murder in the 2nd degree. How do you plead? Tommy's voice was quiet but steady. Not guilty, Magistrate. I acted in self-defense. High Advocate Selen approached. Private Reeves, you claim self-defense, but you killed Commander Vaxis in approximately 5 seconds. Is that correct? Gunt? I do not know the exact time, Advocate. It happened very fast. Fast indeed. Almost as if you had been waiting for an opportunity to attack. No, I was trying to de-escalate. I did not want any violence. And yet violence is what occurred. Extreme violence. Tell me, Private, have you received combat training? Tommy hesitated. Yes, Advocate. All members of the Terran Defense Initiative receive basic combat training. Basic. And what does this basic training entail? Hand-to-hand combat. Weapon proficiency. Tactical assessment. Standard military protocols. Hand-to-hand combat. So you are trained to kill with your bare hands. I am trained to defend myself and others if necessary, yes. Selen smiled. It was not a nice smile. So when Commander Vaxis slapped you, your training kicked in, and you killed him. When Commander Vaxis assaulted me, my body reacted to the threat. I did not plan it. I did not want it. But yes, my training helped me survive what I perceived as a lethal situation. A slap is not lethal, Private. A slap from a 4-armed species that is significantly stronger than me, from a commanding officer who had been verbally aggressive and hostile, felt lethal in that moment. I reacted. You murdered. Advocate General Okafor shot to her feet. Objection. The prosecution is testifying instead of questioning. Sustained, Magistrate Kovar said. Advocate Selen, rephrase. Selen nodded. Private Reeves, do you regret killing Commander Vaxis? Tommy's jaw tightened. Yes, every single day. I wish it had never happened. I wish he had not hit me. I wish I had been able to control my response. But I cannot change what happened. I can only tell you the truth. I was scared. I was threatened. And I reacted the only way my body knew how, with extreme violence, with survival. The exchange continued for another hour, Selen trying to paint Tommy as a trained killer who overreacted. Okafor countering that any being in Tommy's position would have felt threatened and responded accordingly. Finally, the questioning ended. Tommy was led back to holding. The council adjourned to deliberate. I found myself in the gallery lounge, nursing a drink that tasted like recycled starship fuel, when Captain Osei sat down next to me. Officer Krill, thank you for your testimony. I shrugged. I just told the truth. The truth is a rare commodity in places like this. We appreciate it. How is Tommy holding up? She sighed, took a sip of her own drink. Not well. He is a good kid. Joined the TDI because he wanted to see the stars, meet other species, be part of something bigger. And now he is on trial for his life because some arrogant commander could not handle his own ego. You really think the council will rule in his favor? I hope so. But hope and reality are not always the same thing. Marcus joined us, looking grim. The betting pools have it at 60-40 against us. There are betting pools? I asked. This is the biggest trial in decades. Of course there are betting pools. Osei rubbed her temples. If they convict him, it sets a precedent. Any human who defends themselves against assault can be charged with murder. It will make us second-class citizens, always at risk, always vulnerable. And if they acquit him? I asked. Then the galaxy has to accept that humans have the same rights as everyone else, including the right to defend ourselves when attacked, even if that defense looks different because of our biology. We sat in silence for a while, 3 beings from 3 different worlds, waiting for 12 judges to decide the fate of one human and maybe the fate of human integration into galactic society. No pressure. The council deliberated for 2 days. 2 whole days. I spent most of that time either in my pod staring at the ceiling or in the lounge watching the news coverage. Every channel had experts debating the case. Some argued Tommy was justified. Others argued he was a monster. A few argued that humans should be expelled from the council entirely. It was a mess. On the morning of the 3rd day, the summons came. The council had reached a verdict. The chamber was packed even fuller than before. Standing room only. I barely made it to my seat. The energy in the room was electric, tense. Everyone knew this was going to be big. Tommy was brought in. He looked exhausted but composed. Captain Osei and Marcus were in the front row of the gallery. I saw Osei reach over and squeeze Marcus's hand. He squeezed back. The 12 judges entered and took their positions on the suspended bench. Magistrate Kovar banged his gavel. The room fell silent. This council has deliberated extensively on the matter of the Galactic Council versus Private First Class Tommy Reeves. We have reviewed all evidence, heard all testimony, and consulted the relevant legal precedents and statutes. We are prepared to render our verdict. You could have heard a pin drop. Private Reeves, please rise. Tommy stood. His bound hands were steady. On the charge of murder in the 2nd degree, this council finds you not guilty. The chamber erupted. Cheers from some sections. Outrage from others. Journalists scrambling to file reports. My advocate Selen looked like she had just bitten into something toxic. Advocate General Okafor allowed herself a small smile. Magistrate Kovar banged his gavel repeatedly. Order. We are not finished. The noise died down. While we find Private Reeves not guilty of murder, we must address the broader implications of this incident. The evidence clearly shows that Commander Vaxis initiated the confrontation by physically assaulting Private Reeves without provocation or authority. Under Council Charter 7-4, any being has the right to defend themselves against unlawful physical assault using reasonable force. Selen stood. Magistrate, with respect, decapitation is not reasonable force. Advocate Selen, the council has considered that argument. However, we must account for biological and physiological differences between species. Humans evolved on a Class 12 death world. Their stress response, their physical capabilities, their threat assessment protocols are fundamentally different from most council species. What appears to be excessive force from a Kelthrian or Praxian perspective may be a proportional response from a human perspective, given the threat differential. He paused, looking around the chamber. Furthermore, Commander Vaxis had 4 arms and significant strength advantage. He was in a position of authority, which he abused. He escalated a minor administrative dispute into a physical confrontation, under any reasonable interpretation of self-defense law. Private Reeves was justified in responding to protect himself. Another pause. However, oh no, there was a however. This incident has exposed a critical gap in Council protocols regarding species integration. We cannot have situations where cultural or biological differences lead to lethal outcomes. Therefore, this Council is issuing the following mandates. Kovar gestured and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. First, all Council personnel will undergo mandatory cross-species training within the next cycle. This will include education on human biology, threat responses, and appropriate interaction protocols. Second, the assault of any junior personnel by commanding officers, regardless of species, will result in immediate dismissal and criminal charges. There is no circumstance where a superior officer has the right to physically strike a subordinate. Third, humans entering Council space will be required to wear identification indicating their status as Deathworlders. This is not a mark of shame, but a practical safety measure. Other species need to be aware that humans respond to threats differently. I saw Captain Osei's expression darken at that last one. So did Marcus. But they kept quiet. Fourth, and finally, the Terran Defense Initiative will work with Council security to develop updated protocols for human personnel serving on mixed-species stations. These protocols will ensure that incidents like this do not occur again. Kovar looked directly at Tommy. Private Reeves, you are free to go. Your actions, while tragic, were legally justified. However, you will be required to complete psychological counseling and additional cultural sensitivity training before returning to active duty. Do you understand? Tommy's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, Magistrate. Thank you. This tribunal is concluded. The gavel banged one final time. The chamber erupted again, this time mostly in relief and celebration. I watched as Tommy's restraints were removed. Watched as Captain Osei and Marcus rushed to him. Watched as the 3 humans embraced, holding onto each other like they were the only solid things in a spinning universe. The Veskari journalist next to me was already filing her report. Historic verdict at Council Central. Human acquitted in death of Kelthrian commander. Precedent set for species-specific self-defense rights. I just sat there processing. It was over. Tommy was free. The precedent was set. Humans had the right to defend themselves, even if that defense looked terrifying to the rest of the galaxy. Over the next few days, I watched the fallout spread. Some species accepted the verdict. Others protested. The Kelthrian government lodged an official complaint, but ultimately backed down when their own legal experts admitted that Vaxis had been in the wrong. New regulations were implemented across Council space. Training programs launched. Awareness campaigns about Deathworlder species and their unique characteristics. It was a whole thing. Before I left Council Central to return to Carenza, I ran into Tommy one last time. He was in one of the public gardens, sitting alone on a bench, staring at a fountain. I almost walked past, but something made me stop. Mind if I sit? He looked up. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Officer Krill. Of course. Please. I sat. We watched the fountain for a minute. How are you doing? I asked. Honestly, I have no idea. Relieved, guilty, angry, scared, all of it at once. That sounds exhausting. It is, he rubbed his face. I keep replaying it, wondering if I could have done something different. If there was a way to stop him without killing him, you reacted to a threat. That is not your fault. I know that up here. He tapped his head. But in here? He touched his chest. I am not so sure. The tribunal ruled in your favor. The law is on your side. The law is. But I still have to live with what I did. I still see his face when I close my eyes. We sat in silence for another moment. Can I ask you something? Tommy said. Sure, and why did you testify honestly? You could have said it was my fault. That I overreacted. Made your life easier. I shrugged. Because it was not your fault. Axis hit you. You defended yourself. That is the truth. And the truth matters. Thank you, seriously. Thank you. I stood to leave. Paused. Tommy, for what it is worth. I think you are going to be okay. Humans are resilient. Your captain said so. He smiled. Just a little. Yeah, we kind of have to be. I left him there in the garden and made my way back to the transport docks. Carenza felt different when I got back. Quieter. More aware. The few humans on station were treated with a new kind of respect. Nervous respect, maybe. But respect nonetheless. I returned to my boring security shifts, scanning credentials, running standard checks, counting chronometers until I could go back to my quarters. But I was different now. I had seen what happens when you underestimate a human, when you assume their friendly smiles and polite words mean they are weak or passive. I had seen Tommy Reeves rip Commander Vaxis's head off in 5 seconds, and I had learned the most important lesson any being in this galaxy can learn. Never, ever, under any circumstances, touch a human, because humans do not start fights. But by all the stars and voids in this universe, they will finish them. 3 months later, I got another message from Marcus. Just a simple update. Tommy completed his counseling. He is back on duty, assigned to a new posting on the Outer Rim. Doing well, all things considered. Thanks again for everything. Stay safe out there. I sent back a short reply. Glad to hear it. Tell him I said good luck. And that was that. Life moved on. The galaxy adjusted. New regulations became normal. Training programs became standard. Humans integrated further into council society, and most species learned to treat them with the respect their nature demanded. Sometimes I still think about that day in the Commons, about how fast everything changed, about how one stupid decision by one arrogant commander reshaped galactic policy, about how Tommy Reeves, a polite human who just wanted to see the stars, became the being who taught the entire galaxy a lesson they would never forget. I am Junior Tactical Officer Krill. I have been in the Galactic Enforcement Corps for 12 cycles now. And I have exactly one piece of advice for anyone serving on a station with humans. Be kind. Be respectful. Be professional. And for the love of everything sacred in this universe,